Good morning and welcome to another virtual author chat at the Poison Pen Bookstore. I'm John Charles and I'm very privileged to have with me today four talented ladies who have contributed to an anthology called Second Chance for Love. Before we begin chatting, I do want to give you a brief commercial message. We do have copies of Second Chance for Love available at the Poison Pen Bookstore. Please feel free to go online or give the store a call and we would be happy to send a copy out to you. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our authors today, Cari Webb, Melinda Curtis, Anna J. Stewart, and Kayla Perrin. Did I get that right, Karen? Kayla?
Kayla. Yes.
Welcome, ladies. I'm so glad you're here today. Why don't we start first by having you tell me a little bit about yourselves before you became famous authors. And we'll start with Cari.
We're getting famous authors. I'm still looking for that. I write sweet contemporary romance with Harlequin Heartwarming and Arc Manor. And let's see, I've been writing for years. Anna and Melinda, I met them years ago and we became serious critique partners. And then from there, just kind of kept rolling. I've got 2 kids at home. They're teenagers now and a couple of assorted pets. And that's kind of about me. Live in South Carolina and that's my world. And one day John will be able to say super famous. That would be cool, wouldn't it? We're still looking for that, I think, or I am, but the other 3 have a larger platform, so I'll pass it on.
Melinda.
I'm Melinda Curtis, and I also write for Harlequin Heartwarming, for Forever Romance, and Arc Manor, who published A Second Chance for Love. And who am I? And I have also had one Harlequin book made into a TV movie. Had nothing to do with it whatsoever, just the luck of the draw, I think. And I live in Oregon now with my husband, and we live in a fixer. And I'm coming to you from my glamorous laundry room with a shower curtain behind me. So that's living the life, people.
Anna.
So I'm Anna J. Stewart. I also write for the Heartwarming line for Harlequin. I also write for their romantic suspense line and Arc Manor, their Kasich romance, which Melinda said published Second Chance for Love. I'm just in the last week, I actually signed a new contract with them for the first of a new romantic suspense series I'm super excited about. So I'm going to be branching out to a little bit grittier stuff with that book, which I'm already chomping at the bit to write, but I can't. I've got other deadlines I have to meet first. But I live in Sacramento, California, as Northern California, about 80 miles north-ish of San Francisco. And I am coming to you from my kitchen, which is also my office. So once again, the glamorous life proven once again. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be here. I've heard about the Poison Pen for years, so this is super exciting.
Thank you. Kayla?
And I am in the Toronto, Canada area. So if anyone has been to Toronto, I'm just a little bit west in a city called Hamilton. And I have been writing for Harlequin. I was writing for the Kamani line. I've written for the Mara line. One of my books launched the Spice line, but the Kamani line recently was disbanded. So now I'm writing for Harlequin Intrigue, because my editor always said, Kayla, you always have this suspense story. Maybe you can kind of cut that out for the romance, the Kamani line. And just as I came up with like a great idea with 4 brothers and a small town and no real suspense, they cut the line. So I got 2 books out before I got to write about the other 2 brothers. But yeah, I've written for St. Martin's Press as well. Kensington was once the line that did Arabesque, and that got sold to Harlequin. So I've written for a bunch, and I write, some erotica. I have written romance and some suspense. And I think I might have been at your store, John, at the very first Thriller Writers Conference in Phoenix. I feel like we might have stopped by a bunch of authors. But anyway, I know I've seen you before at RWA's or somewhere.
RWA, yeah, I think.
For sure, yeah.
I've always enjoyed your books. Let's go ahead and tell us about your contribution to Second Chance for Love. And why don't we start with you, Kayla?
Okay, so my story is called Father Wanted, and I have my heroine whose name is Jazzy, and she figures, she can be a single mom and have it all without a man. Men are complicated. And what better way to do that than to have a good friend, Jeremiah? You could have a no strings attached kind of, let's make this a partnership, but no relationship. And that's how she goes into it. Of course, Jeremiah is really cute and it was easy enough to, create the baby, but she figures she's moving along in her life without having him as, that romantic partner. And this is becoming frustrating for him because he wants more. He wants the family, and he knows that they'd be great together, but she's got it in her mind that relationships always end, as her mother's had and with the various boyfriends. So she's got that hang up, like, why ruin a good thing? Why ruin a good friendship? And then at some point in the story, she starts to she has a little bit of a health scare, and then realizes, maybe running from love is not the right thing. Maybe having someone else in your life who's there for you is actually the whole package. So that's kind of my story.
Anna, what about your contribution?
So my story is called Mom Wanted, and I love how each one of us kind of has a different take on the same theme. But my heroine, and I'm in the middle of writing 2 different books. I'm trying to remember what the heck my heroine's name is. It's Claire, I believe. It's Claire. Yes. Thank you. Thank God for friends who've read the book. So Claire is an elementary school art teacher, and that's not me. Sorry, I'm hearing noises. Who unfortunately can't have children, but she surrounds herself with children, and she's formed a really close attachment to one of her weekend students from the town farmers market type fair thing. We're never quite sure what to call that, but little Lindy, and Lindy has it in her mind that she wants Claire to be a bigger part of her life. Lindy's father takes exception to that. He lost his wife when Lindy was a baby, and he's not in an emotional position to take another chance, especially in the way that he lost his wife, where he knows things can turn on a dime. So it's kind of a coming to the other person's perspective, and having a little girl who acts as a very big unifying force, because once Lindy's got her plan in her head, nothing's gonna stop. So that leads to the happily ever after. So
Melinda, your contribution?
I'm like Anna. I just finished a book and I'm just starting a book. I'm like, what is mine called again? Mine is called Hero Wanted. We all have these, wanted titles to the book, and they're all, we all wrote about these 4 heroines who are friends in this farmer's market that happens in the town of Sea Glass Bay. And my 3 heroine friends from these writers here set up my single mom, Leah Martin, with a blind date because she needs a date for her ex-husband's wedding, where her son is going to be the ring bearer. And each of her friends, unbeknownst to each other, sets her up on a blind date with the same man. So a little bit of humor there. And the hero has kind of a not nefarious really, but he wants her flower shop space for it to expand his restaurant bar business and give his mother some place to be, which is not the best of goals and intentions. But I love to kind of write those heroes that maybe come in and don't have the best of intentions at first, and they kind of realize, hey, I didn't come at this the right way, because that is really a really interesting character to me. I just seem to write guys who need redeeming in some way.
Cari?
Yeah, I'm just gonna totally confess here. I had like an instantaneous moment of panic when you asked us. I was like, thank God I went last, because while they were all talking, I went.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
think Cari's
Freezing.
Oh boy, the Zoom freeze.
Well, while we're waiting for Cari, my next question for you is all of you've
Cross
written.
pregnancy.
Oh, there he is.
Gone. Okay,
Are you
my
back?
story is about a surprise pregnancy. Let's see, Paige Duffy is living in town. She works at the market and she becomes pregnant with her best friend's baby. And the story is about telling him. And he is scheduled, he owns a boat and he was supposed to
Uh-oh, freeze.
South
he's going
Carolina
to
is
stay in
not
town
good with
or,
the thing.
you know, with the Paige and, or if he's going to pursue his dreams.
All of you have written novel-length works and you've explored the shorter format. Can you talk a little bit from your perspective as an author? What are the advantages and possibly some of the challenges of writing shorter? And we'll start with you, Cari.
As Melinda and Anna will tell you, I am wordy. And so going short for me can be a challenge because I love a lot of description and a lot of emotion, and I love words. I love the flow of words. And so keeping it tight, it's also a really good, what do we call it, like a craft lesson for me, and how to write faster and how to write shorter and tighter and really be succinct with my words. So actually, I think it helps me improve my craft. It's just hard for me to do. And I know like the last one I know I was super proud because I sent it to Melinda and Anna and I was like, I came in under word count for like the first time ever, because with my heartwarmings, I'm over the 70,000 mark all the time. And I'm always sending it to my editor going, it's too long. It's too long. And she's like, I got it. So yeah, I would say for me, it's just being short, it's just being tighter with my words.
Melinda.
I think writing shorter is great fun because when you're writing a longer book, at least for me, I get to the middle and I kind of lose some of the excitement. So I tend to plug in a plot twist or something to make it fun for me. And I write a lot of humor in my stories, so that seems to work out. But if you see a lot of humor in the middle of my books, that's why, because I needed a little energy boost to get me towards the end. So I do really appreciate the shorter length, writing the shorter length. I like it. I like that it kind of gives my brain of respite from the longer length, you know, and just kind of re-energizes me. Because as an author, every book I start, I think I've written, you know, 60 or some stories. Every book I start, I think, oh, wow, I can't do it again. There's this little part of your brain that says, I can't do it again. Why, you know, I need a new idea or whatever. And so the shorter length, when you accomplish it, you're like, woohoo, I did that. I'm so accomplished. Pat yourself on the back. Hasn't even come out yet. You don't know how anyone's received it, but there's that feeling, that rejuvenation feeling. That's great.
Anna.
Yeah, I agree with both of them. I'm kind of like Cari before I got really serious about writing. In fact, I just unearthed one of my first books I ever finished, and it was almost 700 pages long. So yeah, writing, yeah, that's never seeing the light of day. Writing short is a really good challenge, but it also, in some ways it's limiting because when you're writing so much shorter than the usual 70,000 words, which is what most of us write typically for a full-length book, you need a conflict between the characters that's going to sustain the entire story. But when you're writing short, you have to find a conflict that can be resolved rather quickly, and it's not quite as deep because you don't have as much time to resolve it. So most of my novellas end up being either second chance or reunion or something where the characters already know each other. So you can kind of shortcut it straight to the conflict between them. So in that way, I think novellas work really, really well. And I always find it ironic that my very first sale ever was a novella. And I just kind of thought that was the universe's way of telling me, stop writing such darn long books. So, and it's also a nice break because like Melinda says, you can usually take me about a week to 10 days to write a novella, or it takes me a month to 6 weeks to write a full book. So being able to accomplish something on a faster and, being able to move something down on my accomplishment board and say, yes, it's finished, what's next? And have it behind me is always a good thing.
Kayla?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, I didn't know if I was waiting for you to introduce me again, but okay. I think I really identify with Cari. I'm wordy. I was always that kid in school. If it was a 3,000 word assignment, I was at 3,010, like, just trying to get it right at the limit. So I have no problem kind of overwriting. At least once I start revising, I can do all that. So it's more of a challenge to write something smaller. And I Cari this time, something shorter, I should say. I came in at word count and I was like, whoa, I did it. I didn't come in like 1,000 words over. I came in like on word count, maybe like a few words over, but it was really a great sense of accomplishment. And, it's really just about, I like writing shorter. I do, but I can easily make it longer. But you do have to, change how the conflict is going to be and how it's going to be resolved. And for that reason, it's something that it's kind of possibly lighter. It's not easier. It's just not as intense, because we all know writing a full-length novel, you hit that point where you're like, okay, I got to keep going here. I've got to make sure this continues to pan out. And yeah, so I've done a number of novellas and I like them, but yeah, it's my challenge to make sure I'm in at word count. And the first one I did in our Thanksgiving novella, I was over, and then Leslie had to cut it because I thought she wanted a sex scene in there, and then she said, "Oh, you forgot I didn't want a sex scene." I said, "Oh, you didn't?" So we cut that, but I was still a little bit over. But yeah, so it's good to challenge you and make sure you kind of tell the key words that need to be told to get the story out.
Writing is usually a solitary kind of profession. You're by yourself, you're in charge of things. But for this particular project, you had to work together with other writers. I mean, there's characters in one short story that appear in another story. You have the same setting. Talk to us a little bit about the experience of writing this anthology and working with others. And why don't we start this time with Kayla?
Okay, great. Put me on the spot. Um, I'll admit, I was always that kid in school. I hated group assignments. I just always thought they weren't going to go well, or I was going to do most of the work. Now, I know it's not the same doing an anthology like this. Our first one, we did independent stories, so it wasn't the same. And this one, unfortunately for me, I was going through this health issue during a lot of it. So I was not able to be there in the beginning stages. And I know the ladies are probably frustrated, but I was, dealing with something fairly serious. But when I got into it and kind of, saw how the stories were going to connect, I really fell in love with the idea of doing this. And I'm really looking forward to doing the next one, because now we at least have this under our belt and have, we have an idea of the friends and their stories that they've just lived and this Sea Glass Bay community. So now we're all in the plotting of it fully from the beginning. And I'm really enjoying it, actually. It's a nice change of pace where we connect these characters throughout. And I think it's something the readers are also really going to enjoy.
Anna, what about you?
I always connect things. I'm incapable of writing a solitary story. There will always be a connection. So as a reader, that's what I love to read. For me, it's a natural fit writing about large communities, and all of my books are always about the family we create with our friends. So being able to do that with these ladies was it was natural for me. And I love the puzzling together of, okay, like the emails that go back and forth. Okay, what day is this character doing this so that I can work it in to that. I love that puzzling together part of the story, which probably makes me crazy, but and it's probably that's feeding the suspense part of my brain when I really can't include that in my sweet romances. It's a way to get that out. But most books are a puzzle to put together, and this one, when you're working with other authors, is just kind of a larger puzzle, and it's in different dimensions in a way. But like we had talked about before we hit record, is that Cari and Melinda and I have worked together frequently over the past. I mean, we've known each other probably close to 20 years now, and we've worked together on so many other projects. We have almost a shorthand or a code speak, and we felt kind of bad because Kayla's coming into this probably going, what the heck am I in the middle of now? But I think we ended up being a pretty good match, and it's worked out. And I know from the readers who are responding to the book, they love the idea of you're meeting all of these characters and seeing them in all of the stories, and you're also seeing the characters from the other author perspectives, which I think is really interesting.
Melinda?
Yeah, I think it's fun to say, oh, hey, ladies, I need a place for my characters to go to dinner, or where are they going to drink beer, or where do they go? Like, we created a wine bar, you know, which is near and dear to my heart. Thank you, ladies, for humoring me. But it's great to be able to draw from that. And I think the easier part of this next one is going to be, we've created the town. Our editor very kindly, Leslie Robin, made us a Bible, so we didn't have to go back through where every character is described and where they work or live or whatever was mentioned. So it's going to be so much easier now to say, okay, where would this person's grandmother live? Well, there's a retirement home. Where would they go out to lunch? You know, where would they do things? To me, that's easier. So this time seems easier as we're starting out plotting, but it is also the challenge of harder, because now we're going to be related in some way. Talking about blended or fostered families. So we're kind of working through how that might work, which is both rewarding and a challenge, because it's true to life. There are a lot of blended families out there. My husband has several half siblings and adopted siblings and fostered siblings. So to me, I think that hits home, and it kind of warms my heart that we can bring that to life on the page.
Cari?
Yeah, I'm like Anna. I write a lot of connected. You see my characters from the previous books that always come back through. So I love connecting, and I love actually writing with other authors, like Anna said, and seeing these other authors take my characters and how they portray them on the page, I think is always a lot of fun. I think for us, I know when Kayla was going through her stuff, I know one thing I worried about was like, we would do stuff and then I'm like, oh my God, hope Kayla's okay with this. Hope Kayla likes this. Hope, sorry, Kayla. Like that would have, I was like, whoa. Cause like Anna said, we just like roll sometimes. And then you're like, but I think this time now we're all in on it right from the beginning. And I like hearing what, you know, some people, I'm like Kayla, like when I was in school, I did not like group projects. I didn't, because it was always me who was doing the work. And I know watching my girls right now in high school, that's what they end up doing. So I completely understand. And this is a more collaborative. And I love when somebody throws something out that you never even thought of. And you're like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And then you just sort of kind of roll with those ideas. And I think that's what we did last time to come up with the idea where we are now for Sea Glass Bay 2. So I'm looking forward to it. And I love writing siblings, families, cousins, the whole 9 yards in whatever it looks like, in all of its messy, fun, emotional. It's just a great, you know, now we have Sea Glass Bay established, so we can keep on going.
Yeah.
Can I make one other point here that I didn't make before? When I was reading, when I was not aware originally, we were doing them, I guess, consecutively. So I kind of wrote my story with other characters in mind, but independently. And one of the hardest parts for me was I had to cut a scene that had Aunt Trudy from Melinda's story. I loved this scene where nosy Aunt Trudy kind of puts herself into Jazzy and Jeremiah's relationship, but it didn't work because by then they'd already been together. But I was like, oh, I love Aunt Trudy. She's so fun. So for the next one, I'm going to enjoy writing about her and some of these other characters. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You have created a wonderful small town setting in Sea Glass Bay. Why do you think small town romances are so popular with readers? Why don't we start with you, Kayla?
Oh boy. You know what? I think it's that sense of community, and family. And for whatever reason, I mean, we love them, we hate them, but we can't get enough of them. And in terms of our own lives, and we want to see that happy ending. We want to see the good side of family and friendships, and know that we can get through the struggles and have each other. I think it's knowing that you're not going through a lot of these things alone. You've got your friends you can turn to, friends you can rely on, family members you can rely on, and then family members who make your life a little complicated and crazy and their notes. So all of that is fun and yet still warm and fulfilling, and gives us that, the happy ending that we all love.
Anna?
Yeah, I think it's the benefit of writing romance too, is because no matter how emotional or crazy the small town might get, by the time the reader gets to the end of the story, everything's going to be okay. And I know that's the same thing for every romance, but with small town, creating a town where everybody feels safe and everybody knows that everything is going to be okay, especially in these rather complicated times we're living in, it's such a comfort for readers and for writers. I mean, I write a series called Butterfly Harbor for Heartwarming, and I'm coming up on the last book, and I've already got readers going, you have to keep it going. And I'm like, I will have written 12, that will be enough. But there might be another generation a few down the road. But it's coming home every time they start a new book. And that's what we're hoping to do with Sea Glass Bay. Every time they read a new Sea Glass Bay book, they will know where they're arriving. It's destination reading. I know I want to visit this place again. I want to see what new people I can meet. And they don't have to leave their homes. They can do it right on their e-readers or, in the pages of a book.
Linda?
Wow, you guys had such great answers. I think I used to live in a small town, and then I lived in a small town that became big, and now we've moved to a small town where actually it's interesting that we're the new people on the block, and yet people are so welcoming. We were here a week when the couple across the street brought over soup and homemade soup and homemade bread. And I was like, whoa, this is just like out of one of my small town stories, right? So it was really cool. And if we're doing yard work out in front, like people come and kind of gather. And I think sometimes in our world, it's kind of like, oh, well, you're in my space, that's intrusive. But I actually like to hear about their stories. A lot of people have been on our street for 20, 30 years. And there's a history here to the place. There's like a possum that lives in the area. Recently, we had a great horned owl baby fall into our backyard. So the whole neighborhood was coming over to see, because they'd heard the mama owl, but they had not seen her. And then we spotted the owl watching us all. But it's just really, it sounds kind of cheesy to say, precious in a way, that these places still exist, and it's comforting. I think, like everyone's kind of been saying, it's comforting to have that feeling, experience that feeling.
Cari?
Ha ha, Cari. Go after all three of us.
More I can add, because I think Anna nailed it with destination reading. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
Anna, I'll have to use that, because that's really what it is.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah. I actually wrote it down because I was like, destination reading, it just sort of brings it all together, because it's about community. I know through Heartwarming, my series was set in San Francisco, in big city, but at the core of it, it's community. So I think wherever it's set, the core of all the books are community and people that you want to spend your time with, that you would like to meet. It's towns you would like to visit. It's places you would like to go, where you would want to go with your friends, or, it's neighbors we all would probably like to have, that kind of thing. So I think really, I kind of echoing what everyone else said, I think that's the power of them. And really, like Anna said, I think the reader returns again and again to get a glimpse of past characters and new characters, and to see what's happening in that world. And once you've created it there and you've hooked them into that particular location, they're coming back.
For those that may not be familiar with your books, if you had to, what 3 words would you choose that best describe the flavor of your writing?
God.
And if no one volunteers, I'll pick someone first.
Oh gosh.
Oh, 3. Let's see. Probably there's romance, there's community, and there's a lot of laughter. I like some humor. I like funny situations in my books, and there's community. And maybe one of my editors said the other day, generations. I deal a lot with different generations, and that's probably should have probably said generations. So those were mine. There's too many there. See, because I'm wordy.
Exactly.
Can't stop at 3.
I think I would say for mine, probably emotional, intrigue, and I don't know, family drama. That's, and more. I could go on as Cari was, but I'm going to keep it to 3 because I can do it. So.
Go, Kayla.
Go ahead, Mel.
Well, I think the first word has to be laugh. I like to write stuff that makes me laugh or makes me giggle while I'm having it, because I do laugh at myself quite a bit. Probably not good to admit, but what are you going to do when something happens? And I also think I really try to bring that emotion like Kayla was talking about. So maybe a little cry or tear, not angsty tears. And then I like to have that sigh, that happily ever after feeling of, got your happy ending and you feel good about these characters in the book.
Okay, you're done. Okay. My Post-it is filled. Okay.
3 words.
3 words. I was trying, can I hyphenate and make it, as my editor would say, no, stop hyphenating. But I did hyphenate one, and it's family found, excitement, and unexpected. One of the things I always try to do in each one of my book is to flip the usual and flip the expected into a way that the reader might not be anticipating. And sometimes it takes me longer to find a way to do that. Sometimes it's right from page 1, and sometimes it doesn't hit me until the last, and I have to go back and fix it. But I want the reader to go on a journey that they're not particularly expecting. So that usually means throwing in some excitement and some adventure, some suspense elements. I did manage to get a bomb into a Harlequin heartwarming, my very first one, and I am so proud of that. I really made that work. But then all of my books are always about family found. It's not necessarily the family you're born to, it's the family you create for yourself. And I think that comes from my own true life. I have a very small nuclear family. It's just me and my mom, but my friends are my family. And I hope that comes through in my books.
All of you have very long careers in writing. As you look back on those careers, what advice would you give to someone who's first starting out as a writer?
Never give up. But I mean, just keep pushing. And I would say that to anybody, if you want something badly enough, to just keep working at it and keep improving your craft and just keep going, keep learning. Don't ever think I think Mel said it earlier, every book I start is like, can I even do this? Do I know how to do this? Why did I think I did? Well, I didn't know I could do this. And you're 17 books in and you're like, I don't know how I got here. Those were all just a fluke, and here we go again. For a newbie writer, it's about writing, and it's about being kind to yourself and treating it like a career, the career that you want, and being serious with it. But really at the bottom, I think at the very end of the day, it is not giving up and surrounding yourself with people who will believe when you don't. So when you lose your faith and they are still believing for you, because personal experience for me, you keep going. I think that's what I would tell a new writer.
And I would add that even if you're wanting to write, you should be reading, read as much as you can, see how stories are put together so you can learn that kind of innately. I mean, you
Yeah.
can take courses, but you don't have to if you study the structure of the stories you're actually reading. And you have to be obviously willing to put your stories out there. So find someone you trust, though. Don't find someone who is going to want to change your story or knock you down. I remember when I was at one writers group, there was one lady and she was talking to me about the story she was writing, and she wasn't published yet. And I think it had suspense. And she said, "Oh, but everyone told me on my critique group I shouldn't do this." And when she gave me the story idea, I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, I think this is a great idea." So sometimes you have to know when to believe in your idea and understand that other writers are sometimes going to want to put their slant on things. And it's not what you would do, and that's okay. And they would do it differently. But it's that fine line between, is this working, or are they kind of injecting their vision to my story? So just keep reading and keep writing and find the people that when you have a problem, I think like Cari was explaining, you have these people who can help you get out of that situation with whatever you're writing, and those people are gold versus the ones who are going to kind of steer you away and leave you feeling like, oh, well, I should have given this up years ago.
Yeah, and I think it's important to keep in mind that there's no yardstick. There's no yardstick to measure. Like we may write similar things, but I don't feel like we compete because there's so many readers and so many choices. And once people start reading, or people who are readers, they read a lot of different things. So it's not like your milk chocolate versus dark chocolate candy bars here. I can't buy both, right? I mean, you can buy both, but you probably shouldn't buy both on the same day from the same paycheck. But I think a lot of writers come in and they think that they're going to make it right away and be an overnight sensation, which happens very rarely. It involves a lot of hard work. You need to buckle in for the ride and just be open to the possibilities. What your career, you think it might be when you start out, it isn't going to be. May go in a different direction. I've talked to John about writing cozies.
Yeah.
I'm kind of stretching myself and writing in that area. So it's, where you end up might not be where you planned, and be open to that.
So I'm going to echo most of what they've said, but I actually wrote down 3 things, or 4 things actually. One to me is a support system. And I know without a doubt that if it were not for friends like Cari and Melinda, and now Kayla, sorry, you're in the group now, I could not get through this business and through this process and through this career without the support system that I have with these women. They are a text away, they're an email away, they're a Zoom meeting away. Even though we all live in different states, if one of us puts out the call, the other's there. And there's just no hesitancy and there's no argument. It's just the way it is. And it's gold in this business. The second thing I wrote down was flexibility. And this goes to what Melinda was saying, is that your career is not going to go the way you think it's going to go. I mean, it can if you stay on a very regulated path. But I started, when I got serious about writing, it was writing paranormal. Other than a couple of novellas, I have yet to publish anything paranormal, because my way into publishing was with contemporary romance. So I had to make that shift, and I had to decide, where do I want my career to go? And this is the way it's going to get me there. So I had to make some adjustments, and it was a difficult decision to make, but it was the right decision to make. I mean, and then lastly, it's finding your own process. I wasted so much time taking so many classes that told me how to write. The only way I have learned how to write is by writing, and it's by finding my own process. And the way I write a book is not the way anybody else is going to write a book. No 2 authors write a book the same way. And that's one of my bugaboos, is saying, you have to do this. No, you don't. You have to do what works for you. And when you lock on to that process, and when you figure out who you are as a writer and how you write, that's when things really start to go in the direction you need them to go.
One of the things I love finding out about authors is that they're also readers. What have you read, either recently or perhaps even just a favorite, that you'd like to share with other readers? Why don't we start with Cari?
Okay, I'm reading the Amanda Quick. Yeah, they're her. I'm gonna have to pull it up. She's got a great series. They're set in like the 1920s, and it's Amanda Quick.
Burning Cove.
They're the Burning Coves, but they're the what's the title? I'm on there's like 5, and there's a new one coming out, but they're fantastic. I want to get the title so I have this right. But it's part of her they are the Burning Cove series, right? Because they're with the actresses and the actors, and they have everything. Yeah, it's her Burning Cove California series, but it's under Amanda Quick. And the newest one is The Lady Has a Past, which I haven't read that one yet because I'm on book 4, I think, 4 or 3. But they're fantastic. Have just everything in them, from murders to mysteries to suspense to romance to these great cast of characters, and the town's fantastic. So that's what I have been reading recently, and a lot of food blogs.
I was just going to say, we're going to be fortunate at the Poison Pen to have Amanda Quick, or as other people know her, Jane M. Krantz, next Saturday, May 8th, doing a virtual program for The Lady Has a Past. So if you're a fan of Jane or Amanda or any of her personas, look to our calendar and tune in. We will have a select number of signed copies. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
That's fantastic.
I'm reading Brenda Novak's latest release, and I'm in my laundry room, so I don't have a copy of it with me, but it's The Bookstore by the Beach, right? Which is really an intriguing book. I love twists. I love how Anna does twists on stories. I love how Brenda does twists on stories. You're not sure where it's going to go or how it could end happily. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. There's a lot of beach themed books out. Ours is beach theme too, but there's a lot of great books coming out that I have pre-ordered.
Well, I just was recently working on the TV show Station 11. I don't know if you've read that, John, or you know of that.
It's been a success, yeah.
Yeah, it's set in the world where there is a pandemic, where there's a 1% survivability rate. So completely crazy, and makes me think, this is nothing. We got this. But having worked on the movie and seeing kind of how crazy it was, I was one of the passengers stuck at the airport when the pandemic first hits. And of course, you can imagine people are unhappy passengers. I didn't mention that. I work in the film business as well. So I forgot to mention that earlier. But anyway, I decided I wanted to read Station 11. And I guess it's considered here, it's like a literary novel. But I really, really loved how it was written and put together. And the TV show is, I'm going to say, almost nothing like the book. I mean, yes, there are similarities. There were a few scenes like, okay, I recognize that, but it's very different. So I'm also going to be interested to see how they, finish up the TV series and how that plays out compared to the book. But that's what I've just read, Station 11. So not a romance, like just something different, not in, yeah.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah.
I have been so terrible at reading lately. So I've been falling back on old favorites, although I just finally caught up on the J.D. Robb books, which usually I would read those the day they arrived in my mailbox. And I was 3 books behind, which is just crazy, but I just catch up on those. And then I went back and reread one of my absolute favorite books of all times, which is The Watchers by Dean Koontz. And I think he gets mislabeled a lot, but for me, he's one of the few authors who can mix suspense, thriller, horror, and romance so well. I mean, what he does in that book with The Watchers, and he also did it in Lightning. And I haven't read a lot of his more recent stuff, but for me, when I need to get rejuvenated about writing or rejuvenated about reading, that's one of the books I pick up. And I think I have like 4 different copies. I've had it on audio. I've gotten weird first edition hardcovers from different countries. It's one of my obsessive books, and being able to reread that usually gets me right back on the path. he inspires me.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you. Before we conclude, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about what's coming next from you as an author. And why don't we start with Kayla?
Okay, well, I have recently finished my first intrigue. So I'm not even sure when that's coming out. If it's going to be like maybe early next year. They'd wanted it for around Christmas, but with my health thing, we said let's push it a little bit. And right now it's called Her Rogue Protector. So I've kept it in the town that I created for the Kamani series. I've kept it in that town. And I've had a few readers asking if I'm going to write about the other brothers that I didn't get to write about. So I'm trying to find a way maybe I can incorporate them into an intrigue. But this character, these ones are not specifically related to that family, although the family is mentioned at some point. I think readers are going to love that too. Like, oh, they come into the story a little bit. But yeah, it's fun because it's lots of edge of your seat intrigue stuff, danger here, danger there. And because they always told me to tone that stuff down to some degree, I was like a little worried, like, have I done this okay this time? Because it was a change of pace. So I'm still waiting for the feedback, but it hasn't been negative yet. So, but I don't know if anyone else is like me. When you send it off, you go through all I'm going to get ripped. They're going to say they hate this. They're going to say we never should have, contracted you for this. It's over. This is the last book you're ever going to write. So I'm kind of in that stage, but, remembering that every other time I thought that it didn't happen. So I'm a little bit hopeful, but, still kind of scared.
So in end of July, beginning of August, I have the 10th book in my Butterfly Harbor series, which is Building a Surprise Family. And it's my reverse May-December romance. She's older than he is, and she's also pregnant. She arrives in town pregnant. So that was a fun one. She falls for one of the town firefighters. And that's one of my sweet romances. And then in February, it just got moved. It'll be my next romantic suspense, which I don't have a title for yet, but it's my Prison Break meets Grey's Anatomy. So I had so much fun writing this, and I'm really hoping my editor likes it because it starts off rather violently, but I love it. I think it's one of the best suspense books I've written so far. So that probably means my editor will hate it. So it'll be interesting to see how things turn out and what my title ends up being. So
yeah.
I just had to laugh that she's like, it starts out rather violently and she's so happy about it.
I'm warped.
Yeah.
We're a crazy bunch.
Yeah, we are kind of crazy. I actually just got my author copies of Caught by the Cowboy Dad.
Yeah.
Love the cover.
I love that cover.
Yeah, it's so sweet. And it's about a 38-year-old man who was having this long distance relationship with a woman, and she ends up pregnant. So he also has a 17-year-old son, and he's trying to deal with the fact that he's going to be a dad again and how all that works. He's going through several life change things, and it was interesting because I gave him anxiety. A lot of us have anxiety on different levels, and I gave this hero anxiety. He thought he had a heart attack, but it was actually an anxiety attack. And I wasn't sure that the editor was going to let me keep that in there, but it went throughout how he has a lot of stuff to deal with. So yeah, that's the next one. Is coming out June 1st, and it's part of my Mountain Monroe series. So there are 12 cousins and siblings who inherit this small town in Idaho. I've had a lot of fun with that series.
Okay, wow.
Cari?
My next one is coming out is Texas Seals Surprise. It's a new, set in Three Springs, Texas. It's a new Western series, I guess, that I started. That'll be, I think they keep changing it, but maybe it's an August release. I'm missing it out because I just turned in the second one in the series, which will be out in November. I think November, December, and then I'm getting ready to start the third one. And so it's the first one in the series is she is pregnant and making a lifestyle change and moving from the city to Three Springs, Texas, to be with her cousin who's opening up a general store. And it's about reinventing herself and her life, really. in this small town and finding out who she is. And she falls in love with a retired SEAL who lives in town and owns the local bar. So there's a lot of community and a lot of fun people that are in this town that I just am starting to adore. And they get up to a few little shenanigans, and they're showing up in each book and sort of taking over. So that's what's coming for me.
Okay.
I'd like to thank all 4 of our authors who've contributed to Second Chance for Love anthology today for joining us. And I'd like to thank you for tuning in, and join us again at the Poison Pen the next time we have a virtual author chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mhm.